The BYD Atto 3 enters the crowded market for compact family-sized crossover EVs, though this fresh Chinese contender is a little less compact than its mass-market rivals, and in some ways a little cleverer too. It's the alternative you probably won't have considered, but possibly should.
The performance on offer here won't be beyond your dreams unless those dreams happen to be somewhat modest, nor, more significantly, will the 261-mile range figure you'll get from the 60.5 kilowatt-hour battery, despite the battery's uniquely dense blade-style construction. It powers a single 201 bhp electric motor mounted on the front axle rather than on the rear, as would be the case with the rival Volkswagen, Skoda or Cupra model in this class. The Atto 3 doesn't pointlessly hurl itself at the horizon from the get-go, but performance is pleasantly eager. There are 3 drive modes, Eco, Normal and Sport, with not a huge amount of difference between them, but you will of course need Sport if you're going to achieve the quoted 7.3 second 0 to 62 miles an hour time. That's about a second faster than comparable Kia Niro EV or Skoda Enyaq iV60 models. Not that this should suggest handling dynamics tailored for those who like their driving or anything. On the contrary, as you might expect, the multi-link rear suspension with its soft springs has been set up here to prioritise comfort, as most likely owners will doubtless want. It's better even than most Citroens we've tried, and that is very impressive. If you do feel the need to push on, if you're running late around a twisting secondary route, you can expect very able levels of cornering traction and the usual EV typical 99 miles an hour top speed. Provided you can overlook the weird, otherworldly pedestrian acoustic noise this car emits at low speeds, you should, like us, find refinement to be excellent, and that's not always the case with EVs in this class. That'll be a boon when you're cruising, where you also benefit from the standard adaptive cruise control system, which is fitted across the range. As with most EVs, you can vary the amount of regenerative braking, in this case via a toggle on the center console that lets you switch between standard and high regen, although there really isn't very much difference between those two settings, and even the fiercer option won't suit you if you want the kind of one pedal experience which is promised by some manufacturers of rival EVs. At a glance, for several reasons, you might be left a bit unsure of what this Atto 3 model is. In terms of brand, there's a kind of, I can't quite place it, MG sort of vibe. You might also be a touch undecided in terms of this Chinese model's size, where the positioning is a bit large for models in the compact hatch Kia Niro EV, Volkswagen ID3 electric segment, and a bit small if you're looking at something in the sector just above, like a Volkswagen ID4 or a Hyundai Ioniq 5. Dimensionally then, the Atto 3 straddles 2 sectors, bit like the Skoda Enyaq iV, one of its closest rivals. The crossover styling is a touch blander than one of those, but it's smart in a conservative kind of way, and it's enlivened by that silver textured D-pillar panel. The rear is smart. This tailgate's notable for being the only one in the industry with the manufacturer's slogan emblazoned on it. A slim chrome strip sits above narrow LED light clusters, and a subtle roof spoiler features further up. It's a lot more memorable inside, where there's a clear design layout with some unexpectedly quirky touches. First impressions take in the small instrument screen here and the huge central display. Then as you survey this two-tone interior, you'll start to note little design touches, the weird door pull catch on top of the circular speaker, the strange tubular silver gear selector, and just below that a start-stop button with a twinkling outer frame, a textured top for the stowage bin between the seats, air vents like old CD racks, the stitched dash top covering, and door bins which are impractically framed by guitar string-like cords. The main feature of note though is this central electric rotary touchscreen, which will be either 12.8 inches or, as in this case, an enormous 15.6 inches in size, depending on the trim level you've chosen. Strangely, it can rotate to display in either landscape or portrait formats via a push of a provided steering wheel button. BYD thinks it's safer to use the landscape screen for media functions and the portrait screen for the sat-nav. The much smaller digital instrument screen has a much more restricted 5-inch space to show its information, but it's pretty clearly laid out. Let's take a look in the back. Rear legroom here is good, even by the impressive EV class standard, and there's a flat floor, although this bench here doesn't slide or recline. The headroom is a little restricted by this standard panoramic glass roof, but you could fit 3 folk across the back seat here if you had to, more easily than you could with most rivals. You do pay for that rear seat legroom a bit with boot space. You only get this powered tailgate with this top design level of trim. And when it eventually rises, a 440 litre space is revealed. That's 35 litres less than the slightly smaller Kia Niro EV. If you push forward the 60/40 split backrest, there's 1,338 litres of space available here. You'd think that BYD building, designing and owning this car's entire set of EV drivetrain components, and that includes the battery and the semiconductors, would allow the company to make the Atto 3 the first car in this segment to offer a truly modern 800 volt electrical architecture that's capable of allowing charging with the new breed of ultra rapid DC public chargers. This is something that we've already seen with the only slightly larger Hyundai Ioniq 5, but no, it's the same conventional 400 volt setup that everyone else uses. Added to that, the entry model only gets it with a feeble 7 kilowatt onboard charger. From mid-spec comfort trim upwards, a proper 11 kilowatt charging unit comes included, which, when it's connected to a public 150 kilowatt DC charger, allows the Atto 3 to be charged to a modest maximum of 88 kilowatts. At that speed, a 30 to 80% boost takes 29 minutes. An AC charge from a home 7 kilowatt wall box takes 9 hours and 42 minutes from empty to full. If you've avoided base trim and you can use an 11 kilowatt 3-phase charger, that figure falls to 6.5 hours. You can schedule charging via a smart charging section of the central screen. So yet another option to add to your list if you're seeking a compact but family-shaped crossover-style EV. We're surprised that BYD hasn't priced the Atto 3 a touch lower to give customers more reason to switch from an established brand. But there's no doubt that you do get an awful lot for what you're paying here. And that includes a greater slice of interior tech than you might expect at this price point. Interestingly, BYD, which wasn't even making cars until 20 years ago, describes itself as a technology company rather than a car brand, which shows itself here with this model's uniquely dense blade battery and its standard heat pump. So there's more to this Atto 3 than meets the eye. BYD certainly has big plans for it and for the UK. The company already owns 95% of our electric bus market. It probably produces a battery in your smartphone or your laptop. And in future, it wants to sell you your car too. Maybe not this one, but it's well worth a look.